different board games for different scenarios. I was talking with a friend yesterday, and he's like, Fritz, we haven't done TI, Twilight Imperium, in a while. We need to make this happen. And I was in full agreement. I love TI, but it's not casual. You've got to kind of organize it. You've got to set that date. You've got to block out that time. And depending on who wants to play, new players are always welcome to my gaming group, my gaming table. But some titles, if you haven't played it before, I want to make sure there's 2 or 3 veteran players, not just myself, that know the mechanics of the game and kind of walk you through a couple of those rules early on. So yes, I'd love to play TI more, but it's not something that you just regularly bring to the club, at least in my opinion and my experience, even if you have the revised newest edition. I think I've got, 3rd edition, whatever the big kind of coffin box Fantasy Flight edition is. And we've gotten a lot of play out of it. So within that framework, when I'm bringing a title, I'm looking at the titles on my shelf, and I say, this is what I'm going to bring to the board gaming club as a pickup game, meaning I set it up. I haven't planned to play it with players ahead of time. I set it up, and people can just sit down, roll some dice, move some miniatures, flip some cards, and we can have fun playing it. What is that formula? What titles are better than others? That's what I want to explore in this board game vlog. So the first thing is, I want to have a gaming experience where we can have a fun time, where we can all sit down and whatever those players are going to be, win and lose as a team. Since I don't know who's going to sit down to play that game, it could be a good friend of mine, it could be a regular player that we play with, or literally it could be someone brand new to the board gaming hobby, or potentially they could walk by the gaming store, look in, hey, that game kind of looks interesting. I wouldn't mind trying it out. Hey, have a seat. Let's roll some dice. Let's play this. So generally speaking, in terms of pickup games or bringing something to a club, I like co-op games. I prefer co-op games. Something where, yes, you control your own character, you control your own whatever, but we win or lose as a team. Games like Game of Thrones, I love it, but being ultra competitive or games that involve, we were playing Conquest of the Empire. Conquest of the Empire, just the coins are fantastic. The map is fantastic. I usually go with the all catapult strategy as opposed to building a navy. Fantastic game, but it's win or lose. One player, win or lose. I want to have something where we all work together to play. Slight adjustment in that would be something like Hero Quest, where it's multiple players against an overlord mechanic. I will usually take the role of the overlord because I can kind of spice the tactics up and maybe adjust things or try to create unique situations. And one against many isn't as bad as everyone for themselves. But generally speaking, I want a co-op type game. The second is I need to be aware as best I can for time limit. And there's a duality in it in that I got to set this game up, got to break the game down, and we got to play the game. I want a reasonable chance, a better than average chance of being able to finish the game that we play. So an example, I love Dark Souls. Love Dark Souls. It is a co-op game. We all play our heroes. We all play our characters. We play that. But Dark Souls, it takes a while to play. Time well spent, but it takes a while. If you said, Fritz, you have 2 hours to play this game, we could probably do the mini boss. No way we're doing mini and main boss. Forget about mega boss. That's just a completely different scenario. So there are some titles that fit that first criteria, but they won't fit the second criteria. Likewise with setup, I have to account for that. In terms of appeal, now we all have our favorite titles. If you look at my collection, I love dungeon crawlers. I've got some sci-fi titles. I want to have a title that someone can walk by and it instantly pulls them in. They instantly understand it. And great examples of that would be Zombicide. I tend to play Black Plague a lot, but Zombicide Modern. You look at that and you're like, okay, there's zombies and it's some sort of game, zombie game. If I look at something like Massive Darkness, it's kind of not so much Zombicide mechanics, but it's a similar thing in that, okay, this is a dungeon crawler and I see lots of miniatures and monsters and minions. I understand it. I want the narrative to be quickly picked up and quickly understood. And then I look at difficulty level. Certainly there are some titles that I like that are very difficult, which I appreciate. There's some titles that are a little bit easier. I kind of want to be on the medium to a little bit easier side because, again, this is going to be a mixed audience, potentially, of players, people coming in and sitting down. They could be hardcore board game enthusiasts. They could have played that title. They could be experts at wargaming. Or, again, they could be really, really new to the hobby, and I don't want to overwhelm them. So we look at that aspect, and I pull that in. So with that framework, I want to have something that is co-op, something that can play in the time period that we have, right? It's Thursday night, board game night at the club. We've got 2.5 hours to play. Let's say 2 hours to play because I need time to set up. How is that going to fit into that matrix? And then difficulty medium to a little bit less than medium. On a side note, on a sidebar, filler games, I like to bring 2 or 3 of those games. Drakon, Cave Troll, games that you can play in like 30 minutes. Because sometimes naturally what happens is, for whatever reason, a playthrough of the regular title that we're going to play, you finish a little bit early, maybe you win, maybe you lose, and you put the game away and you're like, well, look, we've still got 30 minutes before the hall closes, the club closes, or we've got 20 minutes. I like to have a couple of filler games that I can easily pull out. They're light, they're fast, they're fun, and we can play from that perspective. I also like to have a few there in case another table playing a title finishes a game and they want to utilize that. So bonus points in the comments. What are some really good, quick filler games? And certainly filler games could be the main event. We've got Forbidden Island. That's gotten a ton of plays. And even if you're playing the quick play of it, it could be a main type of event. So filler games aren't always just something you tack on at the end. But generally speaking, a little bit more relaxed, a little more casual, I like to bring those. What are some titles that a board game enthusiast building their collection do you recommend for that?